Well. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Akisinimewa Miss, boy, oh boy. It's going to be a fantastic show right here on TV 47. This is a weekend edition. My name is Betty Kialo. Najua munongoja guest wa leo. Well, apart from the guest today, we also have the top stories of the day. Plus, of course, Willis Ochieng is going to be joining us live and direct from Kisii County. But let's begin the show na moto yani. Unaona Willis ako hapo amevaa yellow anakaa fiti. Willis is good to see you. Umetayarishia nini leo kwa show ya Which is Which?
Betty, I have a lot for you, but I believe our dear viewers are also waiting, and what I have to do now is just to sit and watch the wonderful work that you always do on air.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, how are you?
I'm great, Willis. I'm looking forward to the show tonight. Nakwambia leo, nakwambia guest wa leo. Of course, you're the icing on the cake, but we have another guest today, and I want him to come on the show. Of course, nakwambia tuna Goliath wa Bungoma, muko sawa. Najua tukisalamu ya asubuhi bushiere. Hii ingine jioni kaka. Hey. Unataka kudumiza mkono?
Bana, hiyo ndio salamu yangu.
Ona, hebu onyesha kamera yani, hata mkono yangu hata inakufikia wapi hapa. Acha tu nikusalimie na zote mbili hivi. Ndio zimetosha. Salimia watu wetu, salimia the viewers.
Saying guys, nawapenda sana.
Songa hapa nyuma kidogo.
Mimi nawapenda sana. Kijana wenu mdogo Goliath wa Bungoma leo ako live.
Unajua najua vile hii kamera iko, mimi najua niko mahali hapa. Na huko. Kwanza acha nifanye hivi, acha tu nitoe viatu nione. Yaani sasa nimekufikia kwa waist. My goodness, it's going to be a fantastic show. Bangalo imefika wapi? Najua jenga bangalo ingine noma sana bangala. Imefika wapi sasa hii?
Inaelekea. Kwa njia.
Inaenda. It's going to be a great show. Najua mmemgoja sana Goliath wa Bungoma. Ni huyu hapa, tuko naye hapa kwa show TV 47. Let's start the show with the highlights.
6 individuals have been found guilty in connection with the 2015 killing of former Kabete Member of Parliament, George Muchai. President William Ruto has signed the new Meteorology Act into law, establishing the Kenya Meteorological Service Authority to regulate weather services. Kenya's first rising station, Radio 47, is celebrating 3 years on air, marking rapid growth and an expanding audience across the country.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Always a pleasure having you on the show. Our sign language anchor tonight is Catherine Simaloy. Let's begin with our top stories. And 6 people charged in the murder of former Kabete Member of Parliament George Muchai have been found guilty by a Milimani court, bringing a major development in a case that has drawn national attention for years. Now, the court ruled that the prosecution had presented sufficient evidence linking the accused persons to the killing. Now, one suspect was, however, acquitted after the court found the evidence against him insufficient. Take a look.
They say the wheels of justice grind slowly but surely. In more than a decade after the 2015 murder of Kabete MP George Muchai, a Milimani court has delivered its verdict in the long-running case. The court has found the first, second, third and fourth accused guilty of taking part in the killing. However, the 7th accused was acquitted after the prosecution failed to present sufficient evidence linking him to the crime.
I make the following findings under Section 215 of the Criminal Procedure Code. A. The first, second, third, and fourth accused persons are each guilty. The 7th accused person, who has been acquitted of all the 3 counts he is facing, is ordered to be set to liberty unless he is otherwise lawfully held.
During the proceedings, the court noted that the witnesses did not report seeing any women among the attackers. Testimony presented indicating that all involved in the incident were men. Police investigations also concluded that no women were linked to the murder. The case will return to court on a later date for further proceedings, with sentencing scheduled for March 18, 2026. Sally Davida, TV 47.
Now, counties with high HIV infection rates in Kenya have begun rolling out new long-acting HIV prevention drugs following their national launch last month. Now, health officials in Homa Bay County today officially introduced lenacapavir and long-acting carbonavir injections, offering a more convenient option for people at high risk of contracting HIV.
Homa Bay County, one of the regions with the highest HIV infection rates in Kenya, has taken a significant step to strengthen efforts aimed at preventing new infections. At Kindu Bay Sub-County Referral Hospital, Governor Gladys Wanga led the official launch of long-acting injectable drugs designed to reduce new HIV infections among the most at-risk groups.
This pre-exposure prophylaxis is groundbreaking, in the sense that we now see the light at the end of the tunnel as far as reduction in new infections of HIV are concerned.
The long-acting drugs are administered at specific intervals, providing extended protection and making it easier for users to adhere to the prevention program. Meanwhile, in Kisii County, the program has also been launched as part of the national strategy to prevent HIV infections. Dr. Giabe Matiko, Director of Health Services in Kisii County, urged Kenyans to continue taking precautions despite the availability of the injections.
I wish to remind our populace that there are other infections that could be acquired that are not protected by lenacapavir, and therefore the other preventive measures, the barrier methods, and other PrEP measures need to continue.
Dr. Matiko also assured the public about the safety of the injections, noting that the drugs have undergone rigorous scientific testing and have been approved by relevant health authorities before being introduced in the country.
It's a drug that is an injectable and has undergone various trials in the past and has been approved by the relevant regulatory bodies as safe and effective to prevent new infections.
Brian Odhiambo, TV 47, Homa Bay.
Health stakeholders are now calling for fairness in the use of Africa's health data and biological samples, warning against what they describe as exploitation by Western countries. Now, the stakeholders say African countries should benefit from research conducted using their health data and pathogens. Elizabeth Ateno tells us more.
The high cost of medicines as well as the limited supply of drugs has hindered access to this crucial commodity, especially in African countries, including Kenya. Health stakeholders lament that this is unfair, considering that Western countries responsible for producing these drugs rely on pathogens sourced from Africans to aid clinical trials in the manufacture of the medicines.
Such instances have increased out-of-pocket expenditure, that poor communities or our communities have increasingly used their own monies to invest in health.
With only 16 days left before the pandemic agreement is ratified globally, little to no progress has been made to ensure that the pathogen access and benefit sharing agreement is implemented. The agreement seeks to ensure equity, whereby African countries financially benefit from pathogens used by pharmaceutical companies in developing medicines.
Nobody's talking about the fact that if this pathogen access and benefit sharing doesn't go through, then the pandemic agreement that we've been negotiating for 4 years, the way Agri just mentioned, it's all going to go back to zero.
We have it free lunch on our account. We give them pathogens. And we're telling them, no, there's nothing like free lunch in this context because our pathogen are the basis of the pharmaceutical prowess and we need also to be guaranteed something.
Another bone of contention is the seamless access some Western countries have to Africans' health data for free, despite their reluctance to reduce the cost of medicines. There are now calls to enforce stricter data access agreements.
We have a bargaining chip. All the diseases origin are from Africa. Pathogen, now we'll have to maybe stop sharing our data if we cannot be given the respect and the seat at the table What we want is, if there's another pandemic, we want access to the vaccines. We want to bargain for the prices.
It is estimated that local production covers only 30% of the essential medicines list in Kenya, with more than 70% imported from India, China, and Europe. African countries are therefore being urged to promote local manufacturing by utilizing their biggest resource, pathogens. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
President William Ruto has signed into law the Meteorology Act of 2023 as the government steps up efforts to improve weather forecasting and disaster preparedness following the recent deadly floods. Now, the move comes as clean operations continue in several parts of Nairobi County that were heavily affected by flash floods, which left at least 50 people dead and displaced many families. Paul Kirobi with the details.
A cleanup exercise is underway in parts of Nairobi County following the heavy rains that pounded the city a few days ago. Hundreds of shops were destroyed and buried in mud as residents worked tirelessly to salvage what remains of their belongings from the wreckage. The heavy downpour has so far claimed at least 50 lives. Residents in affected areas say the flooding is not just the result of intense rainfall, but also years of poor drainage systems and failing infrastructure.
To make sure wale watu ambao wanatengeneza barabara waweke zile drainage mzuri na mitaro mzuri ya kupitisha maji.
In the wake of the disaster, President William Ruto on Friday signed into law the Meteorology Act of 2023. The new law is expected to help Kenya comply with international standards governing meteorological services under the Chicago Convention on International Civil Aviation and frameworks of the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO. The Act establishes the Kenya Meteorological Services Authority, which will serve as the principal technical advisor to both national and county governments,
which has operated under executive order under various ministries, and at the present time is in the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources. This gives it it becomes a body corporate that it will be better enabled to implement all the policies of government in relation to meteorology.
The legislation also creates the Meteorology Training and Research Directorate, which succeeds the Institute for Meteorological Training and Research. The law further empowers the authority to identify sites for meteorological observation stations and enter into agreements with landowners for their use. It also provides intellectual property protection for data, advisory services, discoveries, and innovations generated by the authority. Authorities say the new framework is expected to strengthen weather forecasting and disaster preparedness as the country continues to face extreme weather events. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Residents of Angata Barikoi in Transmara, Narok County have staged protests demanding answers over the disappearance of activist Johanna Langat, popularly known as Kamilan. Now, the demonstrators marched to Oldonyorok police station seeking information on his whereabouts after he reportedly went missing earlier this month. Mike Chalo reports.
It has been nearly 9 days since the disappearance of Johanna Langat, popularly known as Kamilan, who was allegedly arrested by individuals the family, through the lawyer, claims were police officers. The alleged arrest happened during the chaos that erupted at the home of the late Murwadikir MP Johanna Ngeno, while preparations for the late MP's burial were underway.
Wale watu walipiga Kamilan tunawajua. Mwingine ni afisa wa polisi. Wengine tunawajua. Wengine ni MCAs. Nataka serikali mtuambie. Wapi? Kama mumeua museme.
The family says they remain in the dark as the activist's mobile phone has been unreachable since then. For now, the family and the residents are calling on the government to provide answers on the whereabouts of Kamilan, whom they describe as a defender of the oppressed.
We want to ask the government to produce Kamilan, whether alive or dead. Kama mumeua mutupe mwili tusike. Tukatai mushike, lakini mutuambie ako kwa jela kali.
The residents have vowed to continue with the protest until Kamilan is found.
Murkomen, wewe ni mtu wa Indiria. Ujitokeza useme Kamilan alishikwa sababu gani na ako wapi? ndio watu watulie.
Meanwhile, advocates within the Rift Valley region have given the Inspector General of Police a 24-hour ultimatum to provide Kamilan or explain his whereabouts amid growing concern over his disappearance.
Sisi tunatoa makataa ya masaa 24 kwa Inspector Generali ambaye ako na jukumu ya kikatiba kuhakikisha kwamba kila Mkenya yuko salama, aweze kutoa huyo mtu, kwa sababu sheria inasema kwamba ukimshika mtu ndani ya masaa 24 unampeleka kotini.
Mike Chelo, TV47.
Now, the government has assured Kenyans that the country will not experience a fuel shortage despite rising global tensions. Energy and Petroleum Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi says the ministry has already put in place strong measures to ensure a steady supply of fuel across the country. Now, his remarks come amid growing concerns triggered by the ongoing conflict between Iran and Israel, which has raised fears of possible increases in global fuel prices.
We have put in place adequate mechanisms tumeweka mikakati kabani to ensure that mafuta itakuwepo katika hii nchi bila wasiwasi. Hakutakuwa na upungufu wala ukosefu wa mafuta katika nchi ya Kenya licha ya vita ile ya Middle East kuendelea, kwa sababu tuko na appropriate mechanisms. Tuko na very robust framework agreements between the government of Kenya and the international oil companies, which are serving us under the G2G arrangement.
Tonight, the ruling United Democratic Alliance has criticized Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna for using the late Raila Odinga's death to mislead Kenyans over the deadline of the March 7th Memorandum of Understanding between President William Ruto and the late ODM leader. Now, UDA Secretary General Hassan Omar, speaking ahead of the Phase 3 of the party's repeat polls, claimed Sifuna had boycotted meetings on the implementation of the 10-point agenda, even while Raila was alive.
Rattled by Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna's remarks that the Memorandum of Understanding between President William Ruto and late ODM party leader Raila Odinga expired in March, President William Ruto's UDA party is now fighting back, accusing Sifuna of politicizing Odinga's death to mislead Kenyans on the 10-point agenda.
Just the mere fact that now BAMBA passed on, there cannot then be the reason for Sifuna and Orengo and that Uhuru kind of cacophony of puppets to now try to run innuendos to try and defeat the very process that is supposed to be an ongoing process for the length of time until this matter is successfully concluded. And it's a bipartisanship process.
UDA Secretary General Hassan Omar claims the March 7, 2025 MOU had no deadline and was open to extensions, and accused Sifuna of boycotting crucial meetings to implement the 10-point agenda, which Sifuna's led Mwananchi faction calls 10-point of lies, arguing the 10-point agenda was violated.
The few times we met to discuss the progress of that committee, even when the late Raila Odinga was alive, Sifuna was not present. So you can then not cast aspersion of a process that you did not know how it was conceptualized, how it was actualized, and where it is headed, and where the objectives are.
Sifuna locked horns with President Ruto this week after he claimed he was tasked by Odinga to supervise the implementation process.
There are some people who want to appoint themselves supervisors, as if we made the commitment to them. We did not make the commitment to them. We made the commitment to the people of Kenya.
I was made supervisor by my boss, Raila Molo Odinga. If you want him to fire me as a supervisor, you talk to him. He's in Bondo.
UDA, which is expected to officially appoint members to the technical committee that will midwife the broad-based coalition, will tomorrow kick off the repeat of Phase 3 grassroots elections to be held in 18 counties, save for Kakamega, due to high turnout, and Nakuru, which is hosting a motorsports event.
We know that it will be very free, verifiable, and without any violence. And we are warning our party members to desist from violence especially violence against women.
500,000 aspirants are expected to contest for various party positions in the grassroots polls that will take place in more than 8,000 polling centers, with 150,000 candidates expected to be elected as party officials. Apul Kamau, TV47.
All right, away from news to some fantastic news. And in just 3 years, Radio 47 has rapidly transformed Kenya's radio landscape, emerging as one of the country's fastest growing Swahili stations. Launched in March 2023 by Cape Media Limited, the station has quickly climbed the rankings to become the second most listened to Swahili radio station in Kenya. Now, according to the Ipsos Q4 2024 report, Radio 47 ranks second in both audience reach and market share, a remarkable achievement for a relatively new entrant in the highly competitive broadcast industry. Monena John now takes us through the journey of Radio 47 at 3. Take a look.
Mwaka huu, Radio 47.
From a bold newcomer to one of the most listened to Swahili stations in the country, Radio 47 has spent the last 3 years steadily redefining the sound of Kenyan radio. The station's rise has been powered by a team of top-tier presenters and seasoned news anchors whose compelling delivery and engaging personalities have helped build a strong connection with listeners across the country. Behind the microphones, the process is just as meticulous. Every piece of content that reaches the airwaves passes through carefully planned stages, from reporters gathering stories in the field to producers and editors refining them in the studio before finally reaching audiences nationwide.
Ni uwekezaji mkubwa umefanyika, kumaanisha kwamba tunayopeperusha hewani na mitandaoni kwamba yote yamekubalika.
Operating from state-of-the-art studios in a serene and modern environment, the station blends technology, talent and creativity to deliver programming designed to inform, entertain and inspire.
Growth imekuwa poa, growth imekuwa tamu sana by the way. Tarehe 13 mwezi wa 3. Imekuwa tamu sana by the way. It's been a beautiful journey, it's been a roller coaster.
Tumeteka na kutesa angani, sio tu hapa nchini bali barani.
Man, nimekuwa pure bliss yani. As a DJ since day one hadi sai, man tunaenda mbali.
The impact has not gone unnoticed. Since its launch in March 2023, the station has earned several accolades, including the People's Choice Radio Host of the Year Award from Baruch Mwalimu, the Kibali Award for Most Consistent Gospel Radio Presenter awarded to Eva Mwalili, and the Star Brand status of Excellence in Innovative Broadcasting. And there you have it. 3 incredible years on air for Radio 47, from hit Swahili shows to dominating the airwaves and setting the pace for Kenyan radio. Radio 47 is still strong and climbing. Hapa ndipo. Monena John for TV 47.
Well, great job too. Of course, it's a fantastic team at Radio 47. Definitely hapa ndipo. I hope you're listening. Keep listening, all right? Let's now move on to some business news. And Kenyan businesses are being encouraged to take advantage of the vast opportunities emerging under the African Continental Free Trade Area as regional integration begins, opening new markets across the continent. Now, trade officials say sectors such as agribusiness, manufacturing, ICT, and fintech stand to benefit significantly under the CTA framework. The agreement is expected to unlock cross-border investment and accelerate inter-African trade, giving Kenyan farms greater access to regional markets.
The Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is positioning African markets as key destinations for Kenyan exporters and investors looking to scale beyond traditional markets. Data from the Ministry of Trade shows that Kenyan exports to several African countries continues to grow, supported by products such as pharmaceuticals, processed agricultural goods, and industrial inputs.
Most businesses in the country falls under the category of small, medium enterprises, which has about 78%.
Businessmen in Kenya should also export their businesses to Ghana, because once we have that sort of cross-border expansion and interactions, it really helps grow our economies, right? Because there's a Ghanaian business here employing a lot of Kenyans. There's a Kenyan business now in Ghana employing a lot of Ghanaians.
At the same time, African nations are increasing exports to Kenya, reflecting a gradual shift towards stronger intra-African trade flows. Governments and private sector players are now pushing for deeper utilization of AfTA provisions to unlock larger cross-border trade volumes. Hibak Said for TV47.
All right, off to sports, and Naivasha Town once again took center stage as day 2 of the World Rally Championships Safari Rally roared into action. Now, drivers battled the rough terrain in Nakuru County as the competition intensified in one of the most challenging rallies on the global motorsport calendar. Now, sports reporter Alan Zuki has more from Naivasha. Take a look.
Day 2 of the WRC Safari Rally once again delivered high-octane action. As thousands of spectators touched down in the Rift Valley region. The day started off with a cancellation of the Camp Moran stage due to heavy rains experienced on Thursday night. Kenyan rally sensation Karan Patel finished the day off in position 14, while Akif Virani's efforts landed him in the 17th place.
Probably the toughest today has been quite dry, so yesterday we did 2 stages, today we did 7. Yesterday was really tough. Today has just been getting the car through nice and clean, and thankfully we're here at the end of the day, so let's hope tomorrow goes as well.
Today was okay, but the dirt that was still logged in some parts of the radiators were giving problems on the first loop, but on the second loop we managed to have no issues.
Toyota, on the other hand, showcased their impeccable class once again as Oliver Solberg remained top of the standings, while 7-time world champion Sebastian Ogier climbed to second on top of defending champion Elfyn Evans, just a second off the log leader.
Yes, still in the lead, you know. We've got to be happy about that, but now, you know, I've been just trying to be really clean all day, just to, you know, not been pushing, just try to be same pace with Elfyn, you know, just trying to control, but for sure Ogier has been on a big push, big risk.
You start a day with a minute deficit and you end up with only a second. So no, it's very positive. Happy with that. Looking forward for the nice fight for the rest of the weekend, hopefully. But tomorrow is the big day of the week with a very demanding, rough section to go through.
Tough opening stage in Kidong. I had a badly bent wheel and it sounded like something much worse was going on. So unfortunately I gave a lot of time there. I probably could have afforded to push on a bit more. And then, yeah, a really bad run through this last one gave a lot of time away, but yeah, we still have a long way to go in this rally.
The action continues tomorrow, with plenty of entertainment lined up for the high number of spectators in Naivasha town, as Kenyan drivers remain on the hunt for better results.
I got into it because I had an agenda to make sure I win. I was born a winner.
And as always, we bring out the Kenyan culture, the Kenyan fans come and enjoy themselves. The business environment is boosted by this, but more importantly is the competitiveness of the rally, you know, the machines, the technology that's there, the terrain.
Zuki Allen for TV47 Sports.
Our cameraman had to get that last shot. You know what? To my team members who are there, Kinakwalanda, and you guys just have fun on our behalf. But of course, wishing of course all the rally drivers a great time. And yeah, to anybody who's in Naivasha, enjoy for all of us, all right? So we are done with the first part of our show tonight. But of course, remember, we have such good things happening. We have Willis Ocheng, who's going to be joining us from Kisii County. And of course, Goliath Wabungoma is in the building. I can see excitement online about him. A lot of questions. That I mean, kuna maswali zangu. We're going to be getting into that in a few minutes. Let's take a short commercial break. I'll be back.
Also coming up, he rose to national attention because of his extraordinary height and unique physique, going viral across Kenya between 2024 and 2025. Tonight, we sit down with Isaac Otessa, widely known as Goliath Wabungoma.